Hello and welcome to this session on changing role of advisors, which is part of Module 8 on soft skills for facilitating interactive learning and demonstration on IPM. We will first start with some general introduction and getting into the topic through a video. We will explain our general principles about the role of advisors and then look at some practical applications of it. So first we will watch this video, and you can of course stop it at all times. I apologize for the poor quality. That's because of the recording mode, which doesn't allow both having me in the screen and having a good quality of the video, but you can always watch it through the link that is provided.
The differences in learning from what I've seen in Europe and from what I know in New Zealand, I think the key difference will be that the European system is still very much expert driven, where I think the New Zealand system tends to be a more facilitatory style.
The old linear approach was that the scientists figure something out, teach the advisors, and the advisors would then tell the farmers what to do. I think with the complex problems that we are addressing at the moment, this is not working anymore.
Before we started Action Network for sheep and beef farmers, we knew that we needed to provide some training for facilitators. We knew that facilitation was key, and from some work we'd done earlier in RMPP, we hadn't done well helping facilitators and giving them enough training, and so we developed a couple of training programs, and that was offered to rural professionals and farmers, because anyone can be a facilitator.
Learning in New Zealand, like Europe, we have a range of ways. For example, there was a strong focus on technology-driven, expert-driven. We know best, we will tell you what you need to do. But in my personal experience and my philosophy around learning, it's about enabling people, giving them the skills and confidence to learn themselves, which gives them then the ability to think, to innovate, to move ahead. And that's where I think we need to be going in the future, rather than a tell. It's a support and a facilitatory style participation to enable learning. For me, it's not about practice change. I have this iceberg mentality. Okay, so I have an iceberg, you've got that little 5% at the top that you see, and 95% below the water that drives where the iceberg goes. The little bit at the top is practice change, and everything underneath that drives what happens is the thinking and the understanding. So if you focus on the top 5%, you miss all the important things, so the thinking and the understanding. And if you focus on enabling people to understand and think differently, you will get practice change. But if you focus on the practice change and telling people what to do, you'll miss all that learning underneath.
A big driver of success for farmers is confidence. Confidence to make a change. So my role as a facilitator of these groups is really to put farmers in front of professional people or other farmers that are going to give them confidence that a new technique or a new perspective or a new piece of knowledge is going to make them change what they're already doing.
Well, I guess the way I do things is giving people space for change, and by space for change I mean using facilitation techniques to give people the ability to think about what they're learning and seeing and thinking about what it means for them. So you're not talking at people, you're helping them work out what it means for them.
Some rules for facilitation might be, 1, be organised. Make sure that you've got a plan for your day. Another thing to help with that is send the farmers some homework first, get them prepared, get them thinking about the day prior, and when they leave, ask them what they're going to do on the farm after the day. Has it made a difference to their business? To get farmers talking, a technique that I will use at the beginning of the day is that I'll get them in pairs, and I'll ask them a question like, why are they there for the day, for example, okay? And they get to talk to each other like that, okay? 2 to 3 minutes, get them into 4s. Do exactly the same thing. And then 2 to 3 minutes, get them into 8s. By the time you've got that, the room will be just a cacophony of noise. So that's probably the most important thing as a facilitator, is to get the farmers talking.
I think the key technique is around reflection and reflexive summaries. I use a method called ORID, O-R-I-D, which is also known as focus discussion. So you start the discussion with a question around the O, which is objective, which is the head. What have you seen? What have you heard? The next is the R, which is the reflection. What excites you? What's challenged your thinking? The next is the I, which is interpretation. So what does it mean for me? What does it mean for my business? Then the last one, always really important, is D, which is decisional, which is looking ahead. So what will you do differently tomorrow as a result of what you've done today? And you're taking people in a logical progression, which enables them to think about where they've been, what they've done, how they feel, and where they could go. I think facilitation is a way of being. It's not about the techniques, it's the way you think. And facilitation is not about me, it's about the group that I work with. My focus is to help any group I work with be the best they can possibly be. So it's about giving them the skills and the confidence to do it themselves.
So, I think the basic message of this part of the Module 8 basic messages already are in this video, but we'll pull them forward piece by piece a bit more, but I can advise you to watch it perhaps once more, because there's quite a lot that's shared in it. And you can also consider what you would recognize in terms of that characterization of advisory services in Europe, for instance. Is that something from your own practice or from around you, or perhaps not at all? So you may also, at this point in time, just pause and think, does something resonate in what's been shared, or is this maybe something that you're well aware of? So what was shared was that there's a change from just being the expert and telling others what to do. We research, we develop all kinds of options, and then we demonstrate, and then we explain to farmers how it's supposed to be used and how it can be connected to markets. And so the idea is that this is very much about problem solving and not considering how, from a more farming or cropping system perspective, a variety of things need to come together. It's not just this one solution, because it will need to work with a variety of conditions and preferences, etc. So it also means this idea of not coming as the expert, but considering that farmers themselves are experts also. And this is also what was talked about, partly in relation to this iceberg metaphor, not to just look at this one thing that you want to get across, this option, this technology to be explained, but consider anything you bring forward in that broader cropping or farming system perspective, because a farmer will need to make that work in a particular context. And a variety of things, also that particular technology that you might be looking at, will need to work in a wider setting. When we apply this more to the specifics of IPM, there's a variety of reasons why farmers may like to start applying certain IPM options, or there can be a variety of barriers. This is about it comes from an international research, which highlights something that we may all be aware of, that in different contexts, different factors play a role in whether farmers will like to start applying IPM or have some barriers to deal with. Can be related to preferences, to culture, to policies which can be conducive or limiting. And what in one country could be a fantastic option may not work in another one. Maybe also be because of climatic ecosystem context. So that's something we want to take on board and connect to the realities of farmers that they need to face, and also what they bring in themselves, what may help or impede the desire to continue with IPM. So, was already talked about, so who's the expert? It's more about different types of expertise, and you as an advisor bring in a certain type. It's about participatory processes, being in it together with farmers, and not being as if you're before a group that you need to teach. It's not just about technical aspects, but it's also it sits in a wider social cultural context. IPM, whether a farmer will apply it or not, is not just, of course, it's very important. If it doesn't work, they'll not want to apply it, but there's more than that involved. So we can learn from the concept of farm and field schools. This is not so much familiar in Europe, but there's some good principles that we can apply here as well. This is about adult learning, which is different. This school in this is not about children. Adults learn in different ways. We come back to that in a moment. Let farmers decide what is relevant and should be addressed. So be open to what they bring forward and adjust to that. It's not just that countries or regions or even particular farming systems are different, but also each person is different. And you'd like to connect to their experience and realities that they need to deal with. Learning, we may think like, well, you automatically learn. No, there's ways of facilitating that we can learn more, especially through interactive processes, but also by following certain patterns. So to prevent you jump to conclusions, following a sequence, as was also explained in the video. So advisors are learning facilitators, not teachers. It was also addressed farmers in a group. When we are together, we can learn more than what we are on our own. And it helps to organize a process of learning and demonstration. It's not just talking about or demonstrating something, but also considering how can we create context that helps to learn more from it. That may relate to timing of things, the interaction you facilitate, yes or no. We'll come back to that in a moment. So adults learn in different ways than children. Children very much they take in and copy, but adults think for themselves, are internally motivated. They want to make sure that it's relevant for them, otherwise they'll pull out. Usually they're very practical. They want to be respected, and all of that needs to come out. This also was shared in the video. So the way we approach farmers is very important, our attitude. So then there's different ways of learning. Some farmers may like to pick up a newspaper or even heavier stuff than that to learn from reading. Others don't, only want to see it practiced. But in general, we can say that what's visual and what's something that you can taste and see, so to speak, we learn more from that than when it's just on paper. But again, people are different learning styles, so also diversify the way in which you interact with farmers and pay attention to the difference between them in what they're helped with most. So then there's the aspect of participation, being in it together. Being in it together with farmers, rather than you think out the whole process and the research questions and what you'd like to find out, but be partners in this with farmers. Take them seriously, and you will get much more out of it. So this is also about making the choices for the context in which demonstrations, for instance, are going to take place, how you will create opportunities for meeting, the social side of it, how you will evaluate it with farmers. So think about the process, but more on this will be shared in other parts of this module. So then from the IPMWORKS project experience, we share some further thoughts on the role of, in this case, it's called a hub coach, but it's kind of an advisor role, a specific way of doing so. So let's watch this now. Again, apologies for the poor quality, but the link is included, so you can watch it later.
Hi everyone, I'm Jolien Klaarboot and I'm a hub coach in the H2020 project IPMWORKS. I work with a hub of 11 softwood growers, and as a hub coach I work in 4 different levels. The first level, I work with every hub member individually. I support them and I guide them through their IPM strategies. If they have any questions, I try to look for answers and guide them to a better IPM strategy that fits their company. The second level, I work with the hub as a group. I organize group activities on which we can discuss on different IPM strategies. Next to that, for instance, I also invite external speakers that can come and talk about their research, so the hub members are fed with the newest research and they can go to a more innovative IPM strategy. The third level, I organize demonstration events. With the hub, we try to demonstrate IPM strategies to the broader audience. So other growers, but also advisors and consumers are informed about IPM. For instance, we already organized a demonstration event at a strawberry grower who grows his strawberries in the soil. And we looked at the whole IPM strategy, but we highlight also flying doctors. These are bumblebee hives where we add a little bit of fungus into, and the bumblebee is spreading this good fungus to all the flowers. And in that way, the fruits, the flowers and the fruits are protected against grey mold. Then, the fourth level. I work internationally. Thanks to the H2020 project, I'm in contact with hub coaches over whole Europe. And in that way, I can discuss on different IPM strategies with them and bring the knowledge also to my hub. With this work as a hub coach, we want to upgrade the IPM strategy of the soft fruit growers here in Belgium, but also more widespread, and we want to come to more sustainable agriculture.
Okay, so what do you recognize in these 4 levels of operating as an advisor? In this case, it's called a hub coach. And what would be a level that you like to pay more attention to? Be learning more from other advisors or anything else? Let's continue. So how does that variety of roles of advisors play out? It's kind of a balancing act. You need to know enough, of course, about IPM related matters, but at the same time interact with the group and create opportunities for learning or interaction. And you want to engage with farmers on the questions they have, the suggestions on what needs to be researched, or problems with things that are, for instance, demonstrated. So that's quite a task, and it also takes time. Give yourself time to learn this, to carry out this balancing act. For some it comes more naturally, and others create more and more confidence with it over time. You may, of course, also two roles that one facilitator would pay more attention to the content side and another more to the process. So situational leadership is also something that is relevant here. You need to adjust your role over time. In the beginning, when everyone who's joining a particular event or the network will be more apprehensive and maybe more taking a wait and see approach. And then you may need to be more directive and show like, okay, let's do this, that, and the other, which then helps people to relax, like, okay, there's somebody who knows what we're going to do, and it helps to get started. And in this graph about situational leadership, you can see it's more about directing, but gradually you need to start kind of handing over part of the leadership in the broadest sense of the word, to other farmers and give them an active role. And especially when you delegate maybe to a farmer where you are going to look on his farm to a particular method that is being practiced, you may need to just let the farmer take the lead. But anyway, you'll have to watch the group and see what they are ready for. If you too early start delegating, people feel very insecure. If you keep directing for too long, people will get frustrated as well. So adjust your role over time. So some basic ideas on what is involved. So facilitation is essentially, and this was also talked about in the video in the beginning, it's about making things easier for the group to learn. And coaching is about, on the one hand, helping, advising, giving ideas, but also knowing when you have to let farmer make his or her own decisions, for instance, about what they will or will not start practicing at home. So you have to adjust to what's appropriate as a coach. The safe space is important, that people feel free to share and to open up to themselves. There's quite a few aspects to it that we cannot go into detail, but it's important to pay attention to when does everyone feel comfortable being part of this group and sharing ideas, opinions, and being able to also have peer-to-peer learning. In this, it's important to create clarity about processes. When people don't know what's going to happen, they will become more taking a more of a wait and see approach. The relationship side of it, it's people interacting, not just farmers. It's people interacting. If you have a good relationship with each other, everything becomes so much easier. So pay attention to it, and make sure that things that are agreed, that they are clearly articulated. So maybe in short, some key points to take home. So your role in all processes, there can be a tendency to take a lot of the time. So make sure that you're not overstepping the limits of what people are prepared to listen to. Make sure you get regular feedback so you can adjust over time. So learn from your mistakes also. Include fun activities. Again, it's about people also wanting to have a good time together. It's not just about business, and sometimes the best listening talks, interactions take place outside the official event during the barbecue or over a cup of coffee. Then facilitate and don't let it just happen, you know, like, well, they'll start talking anyway. No, create opportunities actively that can be exchanged. Share information, like was shared in the last video, maybe from internationally or events that are going to take place. So add value in that sense, because that's something you have expertise on, you have your connections. And also help network members interact with each other in helpful ways, because sometimes that doesn't go automatically. Some people may be talking too much, etc. And we will talk more about such situations in another part of this module. Finally, if you'd like to learn more about this, there's much more to be said about it. Here are some ideas on what you may want to read. And of course, especially also the first video shown may be something you want to watch again. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope you will enjoy also the other parts of this module 8. Thank you for watching.